Welcome back to Morning Express. It's now 14 minutes after 7. Today is Thursday, and it's the day where we look at the state of the nation, where we put our pulse on the nation and find out whether we have a healthy heartbeat or it needs resuscitation. Today, we are focusing on the youth and their contribution to what we have in this country, especially politically speaking, given that we've had politicians say time and again that it's the youth that are used, when it comes to things like violence, when it comes to the negative things. But are there positive contributors to the political debate when it comes to the youth? Well, that's what we'd like to find out. And let me also give this opportunity for you to remind you that it is an opportunity for you to participate. The youth out there would really like to hear your voice and what you have to say, because majority in this country are actually the youth. So you do have a voice, and we'd like to give you that platform to have that voice heard. Now, let me go to introducing the panel that we have this morning. And as usual, when we have a lady on the panel, I like to start with ladies. I'm cultured that way. So we have the Executive Director for Siasa Base, and that's Nerima Wako. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. On my immediate left, I have Meshek Kimutai, who's a Member of Parliament aspirant for M. Gwen. Welcome.
Good morning.
And we also have our resident political analyst, and that is Professor Michael Wainaina.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Let me start with you, Nerima, so that we can just have context as we have the conversation. Siasa Base, what is that all about?
Siasa Place is an NGO that was formed in 2015, and what we do is we break down the constitution. We found out that a lot of youth don't quite understand the lingo, and so we have forums within the community and university, and we break down the law to let them know what their responsibilities are as citizens and how they can engage, not only that way, but also in identifying leaders and holding them accountable.
Okay, fantastic initiative, but is it just the youth that don't understand the constitution, or is it just Kenyans?
It's Kenyans. Generally, it's Kenyans. And it has to be a culture that's intertwined. And so we're starting from now children into college, and so that they get an understanding of how to participate in public participation, because that's in our constitution. So even though we have devolved county governments, people don't quite understand what the functions of them are. So we need to start having those conversations with our youth.
Okay. And from your experience and having done this now for a while, what do you think in the Constitution is the most misunderstood bit? If there is any that, is most misunderstood.
That's a difficult one, because we would have to say it would be access to information or access to the internet, because a lot of young people always ask about Article 34, which is communications. Okay. And how much can the government control? Because we can look at China, where the government controls internet access. And when you look at places like neighboring countries, Burundi, Uganda, times of elections, our internet is shut down. So what does that mean to us constitutionally? Is the government, do they take advantage of their citizens during those moments? And what do we as young people do in those circumstances? Okay. Do we have anything we can do?
All right. Meshek, you're a Member of Parliament aspirant, yeah. And I'm sure, given that if you do win, you're going to be taking a very public office and your information will be out there, I'm sure you'd not mind sharing with us your age.
I'm 27.
27.
Yeah.
All right. What has made you throw in your hat into the ring at that age?
Actually, I also died in 2013 at the age of 23. Yeah?
Okay.
It's because of the challenges that I face as a youth, and the challenges that I face are also faced by other youth. So I am a representation to the youth, which is the majority part of the voters in this country. Actually, we have issues to do with unemployment. We have issues to do with lack of factors of production that is in self-employment. So basically, we've been having guys saying that they represent the youth, but they don't have the feeling, because they are not the wearers of the shoe. So we need people who have faced these challenges to go there, represent the youth, and also to effect the change, because we can't have people speaking for us and representing us, and they have no idea on what we're going through, actually.
Now, somebody might say that sounds extremely politically eloquent, because we've had it time and again. And, we've had even the older generation say matters of the youth, and we're going to, and there's all sorts of youth this, youth that. What makes you think you can make that difference?
Actually, for me, I've been there. I run a foundation called the Mesha Kimtai Foundation. The objective is youth and women empowerment together with the people with disabilities. So I've been there, I've done a lot of projects, basically not only in my constituency, in Nandi, but in several places where I do business in Mombasa. I have dealt with drug abuse. I organize sporting tournaments, that is football. I have a half marathon. That is to deal with issues of, I bring together the corporate in CSR, so we always have a cause. Okay. I also have, we've also done empowerment forums, whereby we bring together stakeholders in youth affairs. Yeah, that is the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. When we have the women, we bring the Women Enterprise Development Fund. We also bring in the government, that is the Uwezo Fund, and also the ministry, together with the private sector and the mentors themselves. Okay. So we come together and we do empowerment forums that I've seen very huge numbers coming in, over 1,000 when we organize one. Yeah. So, and after then, we have initiatives coming up and projects like we had the Kenya Private Sector Alliance project.
What's normally your, before I go to Prof, what's your cause? What is it that you are bringing people together to do? What is your vision?
My vision is, that is on empowerment, actually. Basically, me, I'm an entrepreneur, yeah? I'm a businessman. So, as an example to the youth, the reason why I went into entrepreneurship is because I looked for jobs all over, but I couldn't find. So we bring together the youth to tell them that, yes, you can do it by being self-reliant, by being self-employed, instead of just going all over and looking for jobs.
Okay. Prof,
yes.
Do you think the youth have got space in our current political terrain?
Michael, this is a happy day for me. Of all the days that I have been in this studio, this is a happy day for me. And I'll tell you why it's a happy day for me. Mm-hmm. I used to work with a guy called Mr. Morani. I don't know whether he's watching. And at one time, because of the challenges of the youth that these guys are talking about, Mr. Morani wanted to encourage me. And he told me, Wainaina, when you hear them say that the youth are the leaders of tomorrow, believe it. Okay? Because he was saying that we've had this thing for a very long time, and the youth are almost giving up on this leadership thing. And Morani told me, believe it, it is true. Michael, this is the future of this country. And for them to sit here and for me to have the honor of sitting next to them, I will be part of the leadership of this country tomorrow, because this is the leadership of this country. Coming to your question, are the youth involved? You have heard from them. If there is a category of people in this country who are disenfranchised in all imaginable ways, it is the youth. When the political class has a discussion on inclusivity and exclusivity, because they are fundamentally tribal, their definition of inclusion and exclusion is tribal. What that does to political discourse in this country is that it demeans the real exclusion of youth and women, which is more severe than any tribal exclusion that the politicians would talk of. Let me give you an example. We say youth are 70%. So if you exclude youth, you're excluding 70%.
The whole 70%.
We say that women are 54%. If you exclude women, you are excluding 54%. There is no single tribe in this country that is more than 20% of the population. So that even if you totally excluded a single tribe, which in any case doesn't happen, you would only exclude 20% of the population. My argument has always been that for a tribal political class to push an exclusive argument, it does not help the youth and the women, because their definition of exclusion is ethnic. They are tribalist. They have no other way of looking at the political scenario. My argument has always been, let us have a discussion on inclusivity of youth, of women, of other groups, because if we do not change the narrative from the tribal narrative to another narrative, we will always imagine that exclusion in politics is ethnic. Exclusion in politics is not ethnic. It is these guys. They have been excluded now. They have been excluded for the last 54 years. And for them to come here and say, we have arrived and will not be taken for granted, it's a happy day for me.
Okay, well, I don't even know what to say to that, but let me come to you, Nerima. And fine, here is Siasa base, and you've mentioned that what you're doing is ensuring that the youth understand
Yes.
the Constitution. After they've understood the Constitution, then what? How is that going to change this country for the better?
See, what we do is we relate what happens to them to everyday lives. Like we talk about the price of unga. You know, we just talked about it being too expensive, rising from 2013 to now. And we look at the price of transportation. So you go and talk to youth about, it's really expensive for me to go from point A to point B. These days, I'm paying almost double. And then you relate it to something passed in Parliament, which is excise taxes, or even related to our new budget, State of the Nation. And so they begin to realize that they have to be involved in these discussions. And so they begin to find avenues to have access to their county governments. They do have public budget readings, which are not attended. But also at the same time, they formulate them in ways to make it difficult to attend. And so we let youth know that these avenues are accessible, they are present, but it has to be your responsibility to get that access. And to also say something that Professor had mentioned, young people are also realizing, we found they are vying for positions of leadership, but they cannot go to the political parties.
No.
They are honestly being choked out. So we have found very many young people running as independents. And that's something that Kenya needs to realize is a new trend happening. We have a lot of young, very ambitious, aggressive people running as independents. And that's the only way we can change the dynamics of this country. Because it's very difficult for them to be in a large political party without, one, the finance backing. Very expensive to just get that nomination. Secondly, when you look at parties giving direct nominations, none of those people are young. None of them. But also you don't have the experience, so you're already locked out. So it makes it very difficult for them to have a fair playing field.
Okay. Meshek, what party are you running under as you aspire to be a member of parliament?
I am a supporter of Jubilee. I've been an ardent supporter of Uhuru. I'm still, but I'm running on independence because of unfairness and predetermined nominations.
Okay, help me understand that, because for me it's an oxymoron that you're a big supporter of Jubilee, yet you're independent.
Actually, it's because I foresaw the cartels coming in and influencing everything from the local leadership of the party, that is Jubilee, that is in Nandi County, in which they placed their cartel. It was compromised. Even when we had the elections board just the other day, just the same case. So I complained to actually some senior guys, but they told me that everything is going to be okay. Like, we had a narrative that IBC was going to conduct the nominations, right? And I was like, cool, this is really a good thing. But when it turned out just to be any other roadside declaration, then I resorted to go on independent. And I can tell you for sure, I was at the office of the Register of Political Parties. That is where the process begins. That is where you request to not to be a member of any political party and run as an independent candidate.
Okay.
And also approval symbol. There are so many youth, who are there clearing with the Register of Political Parties because they want to run on independent. Why? Because the political parties in Kenya are not yet ready for fair nominations.
Okay. Now, if you had said, and allow me to be very candid and honest and bold right here when I'm asking this question, if you had told me that you're running on an independent ticket and you're not supporting any of the political parties, I'm sure there are many youth out there who probably would have said amen. But you are an ardent supporter of Uhuru and Jubilee. That's what you've said.
Actually, because if you look on this other side of, that is NASA, and you compare with Jubilee, Jubilee is better. Because
in what sense?
I can tell you even for instance, the other week we just had the budget reading, right? I was in Parliament myself, and my expectations were on job creation and lowering the cost of living, And I can commend the government actually, because if you see the budget, actually, many will say that it's just because of elections, because it's election
It's
year.
an election budget, as it's been called.
Yeah, but at the same time, we find out that there are a lot of avenues that is giving that is the young people to come on board.
Allow me to interrupt you, because there's something I was trying to drive to here. If Kenyans out there look at you, and this is the political stereotype that you'll find everywhere you go. You're supporting Uhuruto, but when I look at your name, Kimtai, that most people will do the math, and that might not be the truth. What is it about Jubilee that appeals to you? You've mentioned to me, and you've told me your vision is more to empower the youth, is to make sure that the youth are able to be self-reliant in terms of getting their, being an entrepreneur. What is it in Jubilee that you find would augur well with what your cause is?
Actually, that is empowerment, because on the manifesto of Jubilee, it's in line with my manifesto itself, that is in terms of youth empowerment. The only problem that we've had is, have in mind that I'm competing with a Jubilee candidate, with a candidate who was on URP, that is now on the Jubilee coalition. Why am I competing with him? Because we have leaders in Jubilee that they're so lame, they've not effected the manifesto of Jubilee. And in Jubilee we have the executive, we have the legislature, right? And each of them plays a role. Like my MP, for instance, in 2014, I brought a petition to Parliament. That is, I wanted to call for, I wanted the Parliament to declare that we have a by-election because of absenteeism of my MP. I think you remember the case, right? Because he'd missed 9 consecutive and he'd missed 98 total. You get? So basically, that is a sense of misrepresentation. We have a budgetary allocation that is in my constituency for a technical institute, yeah, that the national government offered. But this guy is so lazy to effect that. Up to now, we don't have that technical institution.
He's in Jubilee.
Yeah, he's in Jubilee.
That's the same party you want to vie under?
No, I am vying as independent.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's supporting. I
am supporting.
All right.
You get?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's because I don't understand the difference.
Let me break it down for you, Michael. I can see your confusion. Kimtai is the contradiction that politics has become in this country. It is, you can hear him talk, he can't convince you. And I would be surprised if he had convinced you. He is telling you that Jubilee has no place for him. He's telling you that Jubilee has not implemented its manifesto. He is telling you that under Jubilee, the youth have been worse off than they have been. But he still feels the urge not to present himself as an alternative, but to say, I am out, but I am also with them. I have made this argument consistently, Michael, and I have taken the flak for it. You cannot tell me that there is a difference between Jubilee and NASA. This is the same political class. I will give you an example. These are people who steal from the youth. We had a coalition government in 2008 and 2013. There was a fund, Kimtai, called Kazi kwa Vijana. What happened to it?
Yeah,
it was stolen. It was stolen by who? You know who stole it. What happened to them? Nothing happened to them. Then came in the Jubilee government after 2013, and they told us the NYS is going to solve all the youth problems in this country. What did they do to NYS? They stole from them. Now, young people are not only one of the most disenfranchised groups in this country, they are one of the most stolen from in this country. And therefore, what Kimtai needs to do is to be bold enough to say, we need an alternative. We need to think differently. But you cannot condemn the same people who have stolen from you on this side, and on this side say that you are supporting them. I do understand that in Kenya today, there seems to be a division between NASA and Jubilee. My argument has been, these are two sides of the same coin, and the coin is not even tails and heads. It is tails on both sides.
Actually, Prof, I want to say that the difference between Jubilee and NASA is like day and night.
It can't be like day and night.
Let him finish.
Actually, you're mentioning the Kazi kwa Vijana thing, huh?
Yes.
And those are the NASA guys right now. Sure.
Yes.
I agree with you that we have challenges of corruption. Yeah. That is in government even right now. We had the other day the NYS was looted, and that affects the youth, right?
Yeah.
So we are presenting ourselves to go and fix things.
Yeah.
Sure. We're presenting ourselves to go and fix things. We can't just say that, we can't go there and fix things.
I'm waiting to hear the difference between NASA and Jubilee. You said they're different.
Let me tell you. You know, the issue about the nominations, actually, I can say, is that the constitution of Jubilee itself says that the domestic and the local leadership of the party, has a very big say and also has a hand in organizing, that is the nominations, right? And I can say that it's not actually the national leadership that affected me, but the domestic leadership that was influenced by a cartel. You get me?
No, I don't get you. I'm still waiting to hear the difference between NASA and
I'll
Jubilee.
come back to you
What's
maybe
the
just to
difference?
give us that, what the difference is between NASA and Jubilee. But let me come to Nerima. And Nerima, when we talk about the youth bringing change, is it possible for the youth to stand as a constituency on their own? Must they be either affiliated to Jubilee or NASA or whoever else that we already have who has been in politics for the last 52 years?
It is possible, but it's something that has to take effort. Of course, the conversations have to be had, because what we're finding is exactly what Kimuta is demonstrating here. And that is, quite frankly, the political players today, we have seen them from the 90s, the beginning of multipartyism. We have seen them as student leaders. We have seen them hop from party to party. In fact, sometimes it's confusing.
Actually, you cannot tell who is where.
You cannot.
I have actually counted.
There's no loyalty anywhere in our politics.
In my blog, I actually broke it down for you. When you remember when they passed a law saying that you cannot party hop, the tribal kingpins, and the tribal kingpins supported that law. I did an article, and I said, between the 6 tribal kingpins who are now angling for the presidency, they have changed parties 35 times. Wow. 35 times.
But to continue on, we see in our universities they're doing the same thing. If you look at SONU, students are voting according to tribal blocks. And even when you engage with young people today and ask who are you voting for, they will tell you, I'm voting for this person because of my dad, my uncle, my mom told me to. People are not thinking for themselves. But if we start to have these conversations that we cannot follow the same path as our parents, because look at what it's leading us to. It's possible for youth to actually vote as their own constituency. Mm-hmm.
And how are we going to do that? Because you've just mentioned, even at the university level, this is not even national level, even at the university level, it's already taking a tribal narrative. And this is because of possibly having grown up in that kind of environment. How is that change going to be effected?
Identifying that there is a problem, identifying that...
I think we've already identified there is a problem.
Not that soon, because when we did the research study at the University of Nairobi, and we actually sat down with a focus group, and we asked student by student, looking at your friends of circles, what tribe are they mostly? And for students to actually confess that my friends are all Kalenjin. We're all Kalenjin, and I didn't even realize that I just hang out with Kalenjins on campus, and I live in Nairobi, and it's a hub. Then we have an issue here. This is why it's easier for me to be more tribal, especially in times of election. And that's when you start seeing them forming these clusters. But if we start to engage young people that, yes, we have an issue with ethnicity in this country, because we realize right now that devolution has actually brought clanism. Now that it's tribes now fighting each other in their own counties, now they're looking at, in Northern, if the governor is Borana, the senator cannot be. He has to be Labda, Samburu or something. And so now we're beginning to see new evolving issues.
Okay. And at this point, I'll just request that we open up the phone lines because we'd like to hear the youth out there who I'm sure would want to participate. And I'll be looking at your Twitter communication in just a bit. Kimta, you wanted to respond to that?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to say that we have identified the problem. But today, I want to speak to the youth of this country. That Prof say that we are 70% actually of the voters, right? And if you look at that percentage, actually we are able to sort our issues ourselves. Is it true? So I want to talk to the youth of this country that it is an election period. We have the numbers.
Talk to them on that camera. The youth, they're listening. That's your camera.
Okay. I want to tell the youth of this country that this is the time to fix our issues. We have the numbers. you've had Prof said that we are 70%, and yes, indeed, we are even more than 70%. So I want to tell the youth that let us vote the youth, because we are the ones who are the wearers of the shoes, and we understand our problem. So let us vote the youth, that is from MCA to MP, governor, senator, and of course,
But
president.
Kimtai, you're saying one thing and doing another. And help me understand this. I want to understand, because you're saying we are a majority as the youth. You're going as member of parliament. Yet you admitted just a few minutes ago that when you go through these political parties, they choke you.
Yeah.
So how are you going to realize that dream when you say, let's vote for the youth, yet you've already been choked right at the party level?
There are some, I can say that it's all over. Yeah, there are some places that they are going to have fair, that is fair nominations. Yeah,
Within the parties?
Yeah, within the parties, actually. But it's just that it's less
You have
than.
confidence that's going to happen?
But it's less than 50%. Yeah.
Okay.
So
and that less than 50% is the one you're willing to support as an aspirant within that party?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Let me hear from you.
Yeah. It's not about just voting for young people. Quite frankly, I do not like that narrative. It's about voting for young people with leadership characteristics, Chapter 6 of our Constitution.
And with new ideas.
Yes,
New ideas.
because there is a report that Mzalendo is supposed to be launching next year, and it shows the young parliamentarians who entered the 11th. But they did not do anything supporting youth in these last 4 years. Yes. They didn't. In fact, we have 2 representatives in parliament, youth senators. And quite frankly, we cannot even come and say, what have they passed for us as young people? So it's not about having young people present. It's about having young people who are focused in pushing an agenda. I think what young people are lacking is what is the agenda for youth in Kenya today? What's our vision? What are we fighting for?
Yes,
Actually, that's it. Because I am competing against a fellow youth. Yeah, but it's a very big letdown. So I second her.
Why do you say it's a big letdown?
Because there are some youth that really, like my MP, yeah, just came from abroad and just came to represent people in Kenya. Yeah, actually, when you tell him that you've not eaten, yeah, he will ask you, what's the problem? You didn't have the appetite.
That's a fellow youth.
Yeah, that's a fellow youth. He'll tell you that, what's the problem? You don't have appetite or what? He cannot understand that there are some people.
And I'm sure when you talk about eating here, you mean eating from the taxpayer. Prof, are you convinced that we have the caliber of youth that need to take up the reins of this country? Because it is not going to be an easy thing. I mean, you're not taking a bone from a dog and it is going to let you take it lightly.
The challenge of youth is the challenge of Kimutai. Because Kimutai is here talking about change, talking about newness, talking about freshness, and then in the same sentence says that he is supporting Jubilee. It is not possible for you to stand for those things and support Jubilee. It is not possible for you to stand for those things and support NASA. This is the same political class that has been disenfranchising the youth for the last 54 years. They don't care. It is said, Kimutai, if you are not on the table, you are on the menu. The youth have been on the menu for the last 54 years, and the people who have put you on the menu are the people you are supporting now. I have said, Michael, we will not achieve change in this country until we have a vision, the one she has talked about, based on a new non-ethnic political narrative. For so long as the dominant political narrative is ethnic, you are going to find the Kimutais here trying to resolve a contradiction that they cannot resolve. So that what Kimutai should be telling me is, what is his vision for a non-ethnic political narrative? Because what a non-ethnic political narrative is going to do to Kimutai, Michael, it's going to free him from the chains of coming here to campaign for people who are uncampaignable for, to protect a regime that is unprotectable. He is a young person with new ideas, with new energy. He's bringing freshness. He cannot attach himself to the same people who have disenfranchised the youth for the last 54 years. And therefore, without a new non-ethnic political narrative, the Kimutais of this world will be used as pawns by the same political class that has misused them for the last 54 years.
Prof,
I want to
Kimutai
ask.
wanted to respond
Yeah,
to
I want to ask him. No, just a question. Are you in NASA, Prof?
When in your world, because your world is divided into Jubilee and NASA.
No, because you're demonizing.
And does it
So
matter?
He's demonizing me because I support.
Let me answer him. Your world is divided into CORD and NASA. Into NASA and Jubilee. So when I criticize NASA, you see Jubilee. When I criticize Jubilee, you see NASA. Kimutai, my world is not divided into CORD and Jubilee. My world is divided into a degenerate, predatory political class in Jubilee and NASA versus the people of Kenya. And I am on the side of the people. I'm not on the side of the predators. And therefore, if you are going to expand your own political imagination, Kimutai, you need to free yourself from the spurious, useless divide between NASA and Jubilee. These are not two different people, my friend. These guys, all of them were in Kanu. All of them. They were chairman, secretary general, organizing secretary. They were there. All of these guys, Kimutai, are Moi political orphans. All of them. All of these guys were in the blood-soaked coalition government. All of them. So that when you now come and try and divide them, it doesn't make sense. So that when I talk about NASA, I am talking about Jubilee in the same sentence. What you young people need is to think outside this nonsense of NASA, of Jubilee. 1 year ago, a few months ago, Michael, I was being insulted by people who are calling themselves CORD supporters. Where is CORD today?
All right, Prof, let me just say this. You know, I just didn't join Jubilee the other day. I have been there from UDM to URP to now Jubilee Coalition, right? I was one of the presidential campaign coordinators that is in the other election, that is 2013. So I just didn't join Jubilee. And I can tell you for sure, there is no way you're going to separate Mesha Kimutai with Uhuru Ruto. And now, this is what I want to tell you, that I am vying for Member of Parliament to go and effect change that I feel that has not been effected. But we also, in this Jubilee government is the most progressive government since independence.
Kimutai, to stop you there. And the reason is because I want us to have a progressive conversation. And I'll ask again, I think I asked before, but I'll ask again. What is it in Jubilee that you feel is appealing? What is it that you see in Jubilee and you can say, this is the reason why, as a young man, Kimutai, going for Member of Parliament, I am supporting the cause of Jubilee? What is their cause?
The agenda for Jubilee. Just in June, I just had some members of my constituency, 100 of them. Yeah, they've been taken, they've been absorbed to be employed. That is on the SGR project. You get, which is being launched in June. I mean, this is a mega project that has never been effected by any government that is since independence. We've had stuff to do with that is the connection, electric connection, yeah. And we are talking about the Vision 2030. We are talking about the Vision 2030, okay. And you know this last mile connection has really helped a lot. That is in terms of.
Allow me to pause you, and we'll take a call. And well, good morning. We have a caller.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yes, my name is Samba from Nairobi.
Yes, go right ahead, Samba.
Two things. One is to kindly request the panelists, particularly the two young people who are there. We need to really be careful with our choice of words and the kind of criticisms we give. For example, Nerima has just mentioned that we have young parliamentarians who have done little in terms of contributing towards the development of young people. But she has not substantiated that because, from what I know, we have young parliamentarians who, as per the last ratings in terms of CDF management, in terms of legislations in parliament, who have been ranked the highest. You know, top 5 of the best in this country are young members of parliament. We have Ken Okot from Kibra. We have the likes of Madari MP. We have the likes of Kasipul Kabondo, one of the youngest members of parliament. We have someone like Sakaja who sponsored 4 key legislations that are transformative. So we need to really get our facts right. Secondly, it is important to appreciate one thing, that the process of young people offering this alternative kind of thinking has started. For example, and I will tell my friend Kimutai, he needs to go and read the story of this young man from Buri called Kinoti Gatobu. He vied as an independent and got elected. You need to ask yourself, what is it that he told the people of Buri that you're not telling the people you're going to vie so that they elected him? Because vying as an independent in one of the largest constituencies in Meru and getting that ticket without finances, without the political muscles of a political party, for me, that was landmark. So, Professor, it's not that it's not happening. Young people are trying to maneuver and find ways on how they can be able to effect this kind of change with minimal damage to themselves. So what I think I would advise people like Kimutai who are going for the political positions is, first of all, identify the real issues that are facing young people, then break them down. Once you've unpacked, now go to these young people and appeal to them. Do projects that they can relate with. Because like Kinoti pointed out, that for him, what actually got him elected was once he cleared campus, the first business was to go back to his constituency and help his peers who were not as advantaged as peers living in urban centers, urban setups, to, develop in terms of their academics. So he went training young kids on how to offering free tuition, and because of that, the people of that particular constituency sat and said, we're actually seeing leadership in you.
All right.
So I think we need to think progressively and encourage the little steps that the young people are taking, not just in political parties, but across the board.
All right, Samba, thank you very much. Let's take a call from Moses in Nairobi. Good morning, Moses. Straight to your point of question, please.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
It's Moses from Nairobi. I want to say this. Youth, we have the numbers. Okay. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Moses. We can hear you.
Okay, we as youth, it's true that we have the numbers, but a youth leader without experience is just like taking a watchman of an organization to hold a very senior position in the same organization. So what we can do as youth is we find youths who have agendas that can act as an alternative to the ones that our tribal cocoon leaders have always been showing us. But what I must say of the politics of this country, it comprises of ethnicity, because both at campus and national level, you find that people of another tribe gang up so that they can show the other tribe that we are more superior than you.
Okay.
But we miss the fact.
All right.
What we can do.
All right. Thank you, Moses, for your call. And we are trying to balance time here. So those of us on KTN Home at this point, Life and Style is going to begin, and we will release you and say goodbye. But if you'd like to continue with this conversation, all you need to do is migrate to KTN News. And those of us on KTN News, do stay put. We're continuing with the conversation. And just to bring you up to speed, we'll let you know. All right, so those of us on KTN News, we continue with this conversation. Remember, the phone lines are open, and we're talking about youth in this country and what role they play, especially in the political terrain. And in case you're joining us now, Meshek Kimtai, who's an aspiring member of parliament for Mgwen, and also we have Nerima Wako, who's the executive director for Siasa Base. Let me start with you, Nerima, and there was a gentleman there, Samba, who called, and he was saying that, first of all, we need to get the facts right. And I'll frame the question this way. Earlier on, we were asking the question of how low is low for a packet of unga. Now, the question is, how much is much for the youth that they should have done?
I would have to agree with Pamba, because in that research, it is true that Sakaja and Ken Okoth did come to the top. What I was talking about is the affirmative action seats, the ones where we have representatives in parliament. Because they are youth, they are part of that parliament. And those are the ones that we're speaking on who, quite frankly, your main agenda was to focus on youth. but you have not done much in support of that. And what I'm saying is, it's not that they have completely failed. There is KYPA, which was formulated by Sakaja and his team to be able to push the youth agenda. And it has not been easy for them because at the same time, there are not that many within Parliament. And so they have to form some form of caucus to be able to push the agenda. And so it would be more relevant to be able to see them present, to be able to hear them, because in these moments, as we're coming into election period, where our young leaders calling out the youth.
Okay. Prof?
The point that is being made here is a point that I have consistently made about the difference between being young and being new. In 2013, we were hoodwinked to believe that being young and being new is the same. So what happened is that some fellows came claiming to be young, and the youth fell for it, and they were young, but they were not new. So that what we are looking for is new. Is it desirable that it is also young? Yes, it is desirable. Is it possible for us to get new from people who are not necessarily young? It is possible, but it usually doesn't happen. Usually you will find that new ideas and new ways of doing things come from a younger generation, just because it is very difficult for you and I to change the way we think and the way we do things. But it's possible for her to take up new ideas. They are more technologically savvy, they are more connected, and therefore they are more amenable to new ideas. So that what this country is looking for is new, and what we don't have is new. We've had the same for the last 54 years, and we are now trying to see which mix of the same will give us new. And we are not going to get new from any of them. We're not going to get new from any of them.
All right, Kim Tai, maybe you are an aspiring member of parliament and you'd be charged with the huge responsibility of coming up with laws that govern this country and bring development. What are your thoughts on the current situation and the fact that NASA are looking or going to have parallel tallying? Maybe just to hear what your thoughts are.
Actually, about the parallel tallying issue, I think it's a recipe for chaos. And I think it's really not a good idea, because nowhere in the world have we ever seen a different body, declaring themselves as winners or losers in this in election. But you cannot, of course, expect NASA to declare themselves losers. So I think the issue to do with parallel tallying is really not a good idea, because in a situation whereby they declare themselves as winners and this other side.
But don't you think they have a valid concern that the results may not be as they should be?
No, the Constitution does not allow. Actually, you know, they are themselves. They are the same people who are complaining that IBC, the former commissioners on IBC, they were not. They were not transparent, right? And there was
those issues of integrity.
Yeah, there was a whole process that involved the committee that was a joint, and they came up with now the new commissioners, right? So in fact, they are responsible for the current IBC right now. That is both the NASA and the Jubilee side. Is it true? Now, they should have faith, that is on IBC itself, to conduct free and fair elections.
Okay. Your thoughts on the same?
I can honestly see where NASA is coming from. It's difficult to have faith in an independent institution when, if you look at youth at the moment, there's a lot of voter apathy. And a lot of them do not believe that the vote that they will cast will be counted. And IBC, quite frankly, started off by saying that they are broke. Okay, we're broke, we don't have enough money to do this election, we're trying our best with it. And then we looked at the number of kits. I think they had about 9,000 for the whole country. So when you look at it, has IBC done enough to let the public know that these elections will be accountable? Or does it just look confused? And so I believe that it is their constitutional right. It's access to information. But what NASA with the parallel telling seems there's a communication breach, because what they're saying is the results that are produced by the IEBC, what they will do is use that information to send to their own tallying station so that they match. They're not saying that they're going to do...
Listen. Actually, IEBC has been derailed by the opposition. Every time they want to do something, there's a court order. You get? That is engineered by the opposition. Let me tell you, Nerima. You know, in 2007, I come from Nandi, and that was one of the worst affected areas in terms of post-election violence, right? How did it start? It started by some other guys declaring themselves winners, yeah? And IEBC did the opposite, like declare the other side as winners. So that is how it started.
Okay.
And
because of time?
We will not go to that route again to fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of time, I'll need your closing comments. I need you to talk to the youth, Nerima, and what is the way forward? You've just mentioned 70%. They're a huge number. Is that a constituency that can go as a block or not? And women as well. So that's your camera right there, camera one. Talk to the youth. What do you have to tell them regarding our elections this year?
To think about who they are voting for, because a lot of youth they're looking at the 6-piece, so they're not really concerned of who the individual is. We still have time to get to know the individuals who are on the ballot, and that's important. And not only that, a lot of them are fearful of going against what their family or who their family is supporting. And so a lot of them feel that they have this obligation to support their parents' interests. But we have been doing that for long enough, and quite frankly, what are the results? So it's a time where we have to think differently on how we are engaging, how we are voting, and what our basis for voting is. Think about that.
All right. Michelle?
Yeah, actually, I want to say this to the youth, that as you've heard, that we are the majority and we have the solutions ourselves. So let us go to the polls and vote for youth who are going to bring change to this country. As an aspiring candidate for Member of Parliament in Mgwen in Nandi County, I am there to stand as a representation of the youth and effect the change that we need in this country. I would also want to tell the youth that turn out in large numbers, that is on 8th of August, and vote for Uhuru Ruto.
Thank you very much. That is Meshek Kimtai, Member of Parliament, aspirant in Mgwen, and Nerima Wako, Executive Director, Siasa Base, and our in-house analyst, Professor Michael Wainaina. That is the state of the nation. We'll wind up this segment. Do stay with us right here on KTN News. We've got some news updates coming up. And later on, today being Thursday, let's look at technology. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.